Hello, hello. Welcome back to wherever you're watching this from, most likely YouTube. And my name is Caitlin. I am here in between meetings. And let me actually look at the time. Okay. Because I could sit here and talk to you forever. So I'm a certified coach. I specialize in marketing, most especially with spiritual entrepreneurs. I'm also a spiritual teacher, mentor, counselor. And my background comes from the stage. I'm a trained professional actor, or at least I was, for many years on stage. So I've been doing 8 shows a week, like 6 days a week. Yeah, 8 shows a week for 6 days. We only had one day off, which was when I look back at that schedule, I'm like, oh my gosh, athletics, right? It's a different kind of athlete that I learned that required more than just having a great voice or knowing my lines, knowing my choreography. It was also a mediumship because I was taking the I was in the role of someone else. That meant my thoughts, my mind, my body, even my soul, because I wanted to play a character so believable that you would know it's them and not me. So there would be a practice happening very often of basically allowing another story into my environment or into my channel, into my aura, however you want to call it, however you feel, energetic field. That was a different narrative. And when you do theater, you get to go beginning, middle, end, and you get to cycle into that story each night or during a matinee. So you kind of go through that story over and over again, 8 shows a week. It's a muscle memory after a while. It's definitely a muscle memory. When I started to do TV and film, everything's everything's out of order. So you have to be in the character fully because you don't know at one point, okay, we're going to do this scene now. And then you do that scene like multiple times, unless you were in a soap opera, which I fortunately got to experience. Soap operas are like incredible training camps. I don't think people who are on soap operas actually get enough credit for what that actually takes. They film 100 pages a day. That means you get a take. You're lucky if you get 2 takes, if you get 3, because they got to go, got to go, got to go. If you're going to be shooting 100 pages a day, you got to know your lines. You got to come prepared. You got to already be there and ready to almost give a live performance similar to the theater in a film, TV, on set world. So it's kind of like a blend of the two of those together. And it's definitely a different way of being, not only as a human being, but also as a creative channel. So it wasn't until I stepped away from storytelling in that way because I needed to make more space for myself and my story. I was very, very good at portraying the stories and embodying the stories of many, many people. And, we won't even get to auditions where you have to, be all into that story and you only get that one moment. So sometimes there were big, deep stories that you only get 10 minutes with in front of the casting director. And if you get called back, if you get a screen test, yada, yada, it's a lot of juggling consciousnesses or like souls or mediumship, depending on how open your channel is or how practiced you were in your craft. So once I started to realize that I had the gift of being able to portray people because I felt as if I am them, it's more of a mediumship. It became more spiritual. Then it did become, it's never pretend because you have to give a realistic response. So sometimes we think our responses and who we are lives in our minds, but we have to also remember we have these bodies. So there's a lot going on in our heart centers, in our guts. So just because you have a portraying a calm demeanor, it doesn't always mean you're calm inside, right? That was like the beauty of the deeper and deeper the teachers who got me to go to deeper and deeper places, like during my acting career. They taught me a lot about that. They're like, well, just look at your own life, right? If you have a annoying, frustrating, triggering person in front of you, and how are you feeling inside? How are you reacting? What are you thinking about? Like, are you thinking or are you just feeling, right? It's a mind, body, soul connection, and it's a whole experience that we have. So when you're an actor, you get to script it out. There's a script, there's a beginning, middle, and end. Yes, there's depth. Yes, there's intention, but you know where the story is going. Yes, you have your secrets. Yes, you have the mysteries inside of you that the audience doesn't really get to know exactly what's going on because there's always a secret, there's always a mystery. That's what makes the characters that we fall in love with and we're really curious about when we get drawn in. It's because there's something that they're not quite telling us, but I just want to know, and we're waiting for them to reveal something about themselves that brings us closer and closer, usually emotionally. So we have more of a connection. Now, when you study acting, you learn it's truth telling. It's not about lying. I'm not lying about who I am or what I'm doing unless the character is lying. The actual profession of acting is truth. A lot of people don't live within their truth, or another um, word could be authenticity, right? We kind of, that's very much of a buzzword. My authenticity, my authenticity. What does that really mean? That really means I'm in my truth. I actually am with my authentic self. I have gone through the many layers that we are conditioned and that we are also taught, and then that we also protect and we put in front of us or behind us or around us in order to protect ourselves, being human. This is natural. This is something that we all have. So the more I was actually shedding these layers of myself that I was learning about me and my conditioning, or the way I grew up, or being a woman of color, or um, all these different stories that I have within myself. How do I portray another story that I don't allow my story to get in that character's way? Because that's when you start to be like, gosh, that actor just kind of shows me the same person, or like, it's kind of the same thing. Same with musicians, right? If they're singing about the same thing, it's like, okay, we get it. Like, give me a love song every once in a while. You know what I mean? We get it. You're angry, you're heartbroken, like all this stuff. But like, give us like, a different emotion, a different story, a different narrative, a different perspective. Same with, painters, what's the perspective, textures, you got to change it up, but you also have to be listening to that authentic truth deep within you, which requires time, patience, mindfulness, and for a lot of people, it does become a more spiritual lifestyle or spiritual experience, especially if you feel like you've been living a lot of your life in conditions. I'll be like this, so then you be like that. You be like that, so then I'll be like this, you know. So once people break through those conditions, or they're like, hey, I'm not going to portray that thing that gives you that reaction anymore because the conditions have changed. I have, shoop, I now see, I now feel, I now see, I am now here, right? So I feel actually very fortunate enough to have um, professionally trained with a very profound teachers who were pretty hard. They're hard on all of us, but they're specifically hard on those that they know you could go deeper. You could actually, I want to see more. I didn't quite believe you. And sometimes that's like the hardest thing to hear as an actor because you just want to be believed. You want to be, oh, do you hear that? I don't know if my microphone, a little fire truck went that. You want to be believed, right? So that, Oscar nominating, performance, or that Tony Award winning performance, it's the true, like, I believed them. Like, wow, like they just pulled me into the story. I felt all the things and I became a part of the story with them. I was on the journey with them. So, all that to be said, we live in a world where there are actors among us who are not professional actors. They're just people, everyday people. Everyday people are being someone or presenting a role that they may not truly authentically be. Now, I know right now when I'm making this video, it is March 6th of 2025. So we are going through definitely a experience of clarity and consciousness. We now are not being so manipulated, fooled, or just like totally sucked in by the lights, the camera, the action, the smoke and mirrors. We kind of know the magic tricks now, especially now that a lot of us have phones, smartphones. A lot of us are starting to create content. So you start to be like, oh, I know how this works. Oh, I know how to, present myself on camera. Or like, oh, I know like, what reels people in and what people want to hear about or talk about or podcasts. Like we are now opening this door of availability to everyone, that everyone has this opportunity to express their creative selves or their authenticity to the world in all these different mediums, through media, through uh, art forms, through the voice with podcasts, through uh, social media, just being on camera, sharing their stories. There's just things have changed a lot. And as someone who I also was a photographer, so while I was also in front of the camera, because I also did modeling, so I was an actor and a model, but I was so like fascinated by the camera ever since I was little. I just loved how the camera could take a moment and you could feel something beyond the picture. So my first, I have many, I love to be, I love to find my teachers. And I think that's just something, a part of my soul. I understand we're always learning. We're here to learn. And I'm a teacher, but what's a teacher without another teacher, right? Like you're never like, even when you're like 80, 90, like you're gonna have teachers. Sometimes your teachers are gonna be younger than you. Sometimes your teachers are gonna be older than you. Sometimes your teachers are gonna be your dog, your pet, your child. Like everything teaches us, right? So the more open we can be to the fact that we are here for a little tiny bit of time, right? In the grand scheme of things, are we working on ourselves? We're having some personal development where we are learning, we get to learn what we learn, and then we take that lesson or we take that teaching and we get to teach someone else or we get to help someone else throughout the process. And then it continues. And so, all that to be said, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about, but I just felt like I needed to talk to you about the camera, about mediumship, but then also about how we're all picking up the camera and we're all sharing ourselves in a way, whether it's pictures or it's video or it's our voice or whatnot. There is something we need to be aware of while we are going through this consciousness shift of expression. And I learned it because I got really burnt out playing all these different parts and all these different roles and doing all this digging deep inside of myself and recognized, okay, it's time to just be, right? It's time to put some stuff away. It's time to clean out your thoughts, clean out your mind. When people are like, empty your mind, I was like, what? What do you mean? I had so much going on up here because I had to memorize all my scripts. I had a crazy schedule. Not only was I, auditioning for everything, but I was also like working. I was investing into myself to get these headshots or, work with other people and pay for these acting classes and to like get from job to job. Um, that taught me a lot. I used to be a little annoyed that I didn't just have like this luxury and this privilege of just like waiting for the audition and I'd be all relaxed and whatever because I don't have to work and I would just show up to the audition. Instead, I was like coming from a job over here. I was doing a shoot over here. I scheduled a photo shoot to do, my friend's headshot over here. And then, so this like, but I'm a Gemini rising. So that's like how I just love the thrill of energy and how you really work with it. You have to alchemize it. So I wouldn't have learned all of the things that I've learned if I didn't have hardship, if I didn't have struggle, if I didn't have frustrations and upset and disruptions and um, interruptions and annoyances and all these other things that would just like, ah, like get in the way of my flow, right? Or like get in the way, like every character, right? We all have those moments. Those are the moments. That is the juice. That's the magic of like, but what are you going to do with that? Are you going to react? Or are you going to say, is this for me? Is this aligned? Is this hard because it's not for me? Or is this hard because I must move through it? This is the thing that has been holding me back, right? How do you differentiate that? And that can be a whole nother video for later. But working with the camera, especially behind the camera, how to get the shot, right? You've got, the natural environments around you. If you're outside, you have like if you're in the studio, you have to work with people. You have to be charismatic. You have to have this energy flowing within you and out of you, right? I don't want to just say it's positive energy, right? Because it is alchemy. It is something that doesn't come easy. It may look really easy to some people, like, wow, like they're always positive, or like, wow, they're always like presenting themselves in like this like uplifting energy, but it's a practice. So, with all that said, I have learned a lot about the practice of your energy field. Like, actually, we can call it an aura. We can call it your nervous system. We can call it your mind. If you feel like it's your mind, we can call it your emotional body, whatever really resonates with you, that's really speaking to you right now, or that's really poking you right now, or whatever's really just like frustrating you right now. Like, okay, okay. We're also in a big, big season of change. On it just our souls were like, if I'm gonna be here for it, I'm gonna be here for it. So you're here for a reason. Hey, hi. Always. So what is that reason? You have a choice in that reason. You have power in your choice and in your purpose. So no one's handing you a script that you have to read. If you don't like the way things are going, you can rewrite it, you can change it, you can pivot, you can go somewhere else, you can take a break. You can say, you know what, I'll get to this later. This isn't really doing it for me. You can pick up something new, a new habit, a new hobby. You can try something, you can travel. Like there's so many different ways but that's like the Eat, Pray, Love movie, you know what I mean? A book where it's like, something is speaking to me. It's so much bigger than me. And all these things in my life are changing. What is that? What is that thing? In the acting realm or in the acting world, especially in Hollywood, there's a constant communication with what that thing, let's say it's a higher power, is within the story. That also means there's a higher power beyond the story, but beyond that script that like, a cast of writers wrote. There's layers to this beautiful human experience. And now that we're bringing in all of these different instruments, all these different things that we can present and express in the world, and the closer and closer we are to true authenticity, that is really, really where you can make an impact in the world. So This morning I was feeling a little, I was feeling a little like, man, I'm in this for the long game, right? Take, for example, on my YouTube, I think at this point I have like 172 subscribers. Hello to each and every one of you. I appreciate you all so much. And I wanted to know, I'm like, how can I create more of this conversation for those who are following me, for those who are interested, for those who hear, who resonate with what I'm saying. It's not just like can hear me, because everyone can, unless, everyone you exist, right? There's an existence, but is there an activation? Is there a resonance? Is there like charisma? Is there something that's pulling me in, right? So I was sitting there with myself today and I was like, as an ex-actor, right? I was required to find that energy within me at all times, whether it was at a performance level or whether it was at a audition and just, reading the room and coming in and having a smile and saying, "Hi, good to see you. I'm going to be playing the role of Jessica today, and I'm just so happy to be here playing the role of Jessica," right? And then thank you so much, blah blah blah. And then like going home and then playing the role of Caitlin and going off to, serving tables or babysitting people's kids or, doing a photo shoot, like all the things that you do in order to like, make ends meet. And all that to say that that all taught me something. And the something is that it never ends until you're dead. You will always have something else come in, come out. It's going right, it's going wrong. Pivot, turn around, stop, pause, speed up, slow down, overwhelming, kind of boring, neutral, kind of numb, whoa, expansive, having a moment. It just keeps happening. So these are the ebbs and flows of life as we know it. And I'm in my 30s, so I know I've got plenty of life and lessons to learn. But I've learned some really deep and transformative lessons from the experiences that I have had. And that has changed me, as it should. Things you're supposed to change. You're supposed to change and hopefully become a better version of yourself. And there are times to encourage yourself. You gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta keep going. And then there are times to say, whoa, you're doing a lot. Why don't we rest? Why don't we take a step back? Why don't we, cocoon ourselves for a second? And I'm still learning that balance because I think we live in a society where it's not really like taught to us and it's not really encouraged. It's like, oh, you're resting. Like, why? Like, you're going to be behind. Or like, oh, you're doing all this stuff. Like, I don't know, you're too much. Or like, it's a lot? So I was really sitting here today, really admiring my own journey of, wow, the camera and working with the camera, it's pretty spiritual. It's really spiritual. Because in this moment, I'm talking to you in 2025, but actually, you could be watching this in 2027 and it resonates with you. You could be watching this 10 years from now and being like, oh my gosh, look at that. It reemerged from this thing. And, who knows where I'll be then? And, oh my gosh, that's an old video and it has value. It still has value. There's still impact. There's still charisma because it's still alive. There's still a part of me that is alive talking to you right now in 2025 that's talking to you in the future. Because anytime I post this, it's going to be in the future of now. So I think I'm pretty sure there was I don't know exactly the saying, but I'm pretty sure it was either Native Americans who would talk about the camera, that it captures part of your soul. Like and then I believe that. I'm like, yeah, clearly. A lot of our souls are scattered around right now, talking to a lot of different people at different times of the day, online, all the time. You know what I mean? How crazy is that? You know? That wasn't necessarily happening as often, 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. You know what I mean? We would all, be watching the same kind of cable of like, here's the cable channels that are available. There's no streaming devices, there's no YouTube, here's the singular kind of like, here's where it's at. But now we have really expanded ourselves and expanded our knowledge and our consciousness. And that expands our channel, ourselves, going back to our aura or our nervous system or our minds, right? Our personal development, we're developing, right? We are growing on this planet. So, see, how much time do I have? I have 4 more minutes before I have to go on to the next call. Okay. So what am I going to end with? I'm going to end with, what's the story that you were telling to your audience? So I am a certified coach. I specialize in marketing. I said that in the beginning. A lot of spiritual entrepreneurs out there talking a lot about either their gifts or what they do in the world or what is coming to them and coming to their channels, the stories, the downloads, the lessons, the teachings, that's coming through them. How do you package it in a way that feels comfortable, not only for you, but also the person sitting across and watching this until the very end? That's like, I'm just so captivated. I just want to know, like, where's this conversation going to go, right? There's so much personality. Like, there's so much going on here. And it lives on. It lives on beyond me. Beyond me, this is my legacy. There's going to be a day that I won't be here, but this video is going to be here and be available to you. How amazing, right? So how can I be conscious of that? How can I actually go, all right, what's the real meaty stuff? I mean, if you're a vegetarian, what's the juice, right, that I want to share, right? That I want to live beyond me. So I help people a lot with their legacy and talking about their stories and teachings in a way that then brings knowledge, awareness, perspective that's helpful to other people. So I'm going to get into this in the next video, maybe after my call. I'll just like make it right after this. But I was really thinking about the power of lip syncing. And I'm a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh, I've been a huge fan of RuPaul since I was 3 years old and You Better Work came out, okay? I was in dance class and my dance teacher was amazing. And she had us warm up to that album every day until I was like, I don't know, until I moved out of Buffalo, New York, which I was like in 7th grade. So like we would always listen to that album of like, You Better Work. And that was our warm up. And we'd be like, and just have the power of a lip sync, right? So there is, and I'll get more into this in the next video actually, because this would be really fun. But when I was an actor and portraying other characters all the time, people were also living vicariously through me, through the story that I was portraying that wasn't me, it was the character, right? When you watch a movie, when you watch a TV show, even when you're watching this, so you're watching TikTok, you're watching influencers, there's a part of you that is perhaps living vicariously through the other person. And depending on the other person's channel and how they are training themselves and, opening themselves to that potential, when does it burn you out? Because if you're still alive, there's still a conversation happening. So the power of the lip sync, and we're going to go deeper into like the channeling aspect of like what that really means. And especially if you're out there doing a lot of content, this would be really helpful for you. So I have to hop on this call right now. So I'm going to do this in like right after. So part 2 coming soon. Okay. Bye.